Good morning. And welcome to CSL Denver, a place, a space, and a face of love. Spiritual community, teaching ancient wisdom and using universal principles to embody the intelligence of the divine and to empower our lives and the lives of others. I'm so excited to be here today and to begin this month, as Teresa said, with our theme of curiosity as our superpower. Curiosity as our superpower. And in addition to that being the theme of the month for the talks, it's also the beginning of Black History Month, where there was some serious curiosity and superpowers being used as they move through their lives. And so as we begin to invoke and impart on this journey of curiosity, today we start with the mystery of the unseen. The mystery of the unseen. Now, right now, we are surrounded by things that we don't see. There's the atomic world that we don't see. There's the microscopic world that we don't see. And oftentimes, there are things going on around us. There are things that's going on in the universe that is either moving too slow or too fast for us to capture with the naked eye. For example, I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that nobody sat and watched the flower bloom because it moves too slow. That's why they have the time-lapse camera so us to understand that magnificent process of the flower blooming. Or it moves too fast. If you remember when you were a kid and you may have gotten a water hose and you cut it on and you made it spray. It happened so fast and it went so many places you couldn't keep your eye on everything that was going on. So when we begin to think about the mystery of the unseen, that's where we begin to step into this thing called faith, right? Because right now we know that what we do see and what we do hear is a part of what's called the electromagnetic spectrum of visible light, the rainbow, the Roy G. Biv. But there are faster and slower light rays that are moving, right? There's ultraviolet rays that bees see. And when bees are out looking for pollen, they're looking at through ultraviolet and they can see the various heat signatures or the various pollen buildups that's generating a heat, or x-rays at that lower end. Or we go to the higher end and we look at radio waves, right? Radio waves are in this room right now. And if we had a great radio, we could tune in to all of our favorite music but we don't see that. We only see the results of that. We see the results of that. And so when we begin to move in this way, we ask the question, what if I could one day hit a switch or push a button or something so that I see it all? That in one moment, in one day, I begin to see the unseen. Well, there's this verse from Hebrews 11:1 that says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. The evidence of things unseen. Just think about that for a minute. How many of you have ever seen gravity? Raise your hand. But I don't see a hand go up. All right. How many of you ever seen electricity? Nobody never saw it. You see the results of these things, but you don't see the thing itself. And if you remember back to our beginning, when we went back to basics, the first thing we talked about was the thing itself, God, the living spirit, the almighty. It goes by many names, but I love the thing itself because that allows it to move and groove and fit in whatever situation it is. So if I need to say it in another language, I can. If I need to say it in another environment, I can. That's that unseen thing. So now as we're looking at this curiosity as our superpower, we want to understand this unseen thing, the whole mystery of it, and move forward so that that when we walk by faith and not by sight. Right? So appropriately, with this being Black History Month, I think there is a character, there is a persona, there's a person that exemplified this idea. I can't think of one better. That's Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman, if you know the story just a little bit, was a slave and she had gotten beaten by her master and she would go into these seizures. And she woke up from these seizures seeing the unseen. How to travel, how to move numerous slaves, her whole family from the deep south to Canada. She took individuals on the Underground Railroad, no compass. You got to be deep in the woods. You got to be in the swamp, unseen. But she did not lose one passenger, as they say, as she moved hundreds of people up north. Not one of the slaves that she moved got lost. There was an unseen power. There was a curiosity in her mind, in her heart, in her soul that said, bondage is wrong. As the song goes, I want to help my people go. And so she tapped into this mysteriously unseen thing and began to move. God spoke to her through a deeper knowledge, through a deeper understanding, through a vibration of the heart that allowed her to see the unseen, if you will. Because I don't know how many, I'm from the South. And I've been in some places where there's these big old oak trees and there's moss everywhere and it's damp. And forget about the mosquitoes, they are everywhere. I can't even imagine leaving that place and going anywhere to safety hundreds of miles, in some cases 1,000 miles, without a compass or a GPS or a cell phone, or it won't happen. But she was able to tap into an unseen power through a curiosity of what it would feel like, what it would be like to be free. What it would be like to be free. And so when we look at this idea of that, the 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18 reads this. So we keep our eye not on the things seen, but on the things unseen. For what is seen is temporal, but the things unseen are eternal. The things unseen are eternal. And that's what when we step into this curiosity as a superpower, that's when we begin to realize this very statement. All these things we see, they'll go away. But the thing itself, God, the living spirit that is moving in each and every one of us, is eternal. And so when we can tap into that mystery, when we can tap into that curiosity, we really, really become strong. We really have a superpower that allows us to step out of the shadows and into the light. Because we walk by faith and not by sight. Because I know the things that I see are temporal. But the living spirit of God that is in each and every one of us is always there. Now, sometimes we might You know, how many of you have gotten in a sticky wicket, as they say, and you say, oh boy, let me close my eyes and just, let me talk to the Lord. I've hardly ever, if ever, saw or heard anybody say, let me open my wide eyes and see if I can find God up in here. I know it got to be here and I'm going to see him. Nobody says that. The question or the statement that's made is, if I close my eyes, or when I close my eyes, I can see God. That's a superpower. And that happens when we're only curious. And sometimes we have to be on a sticky wicket to be curious, right? Because if we get lost on those temporal things of sight, well, I'll leave that. I won't even go down that track because I don't like it. I've been down there at least twice, maybe more. And when I start looking at all these things around me, look what I did, or look what I can do, or I lose my superpower. I lose my unseen tapped-indedness. I just made up a word, tapped-indedness. And that's what we are here to do. God is calling us with this superpower. He's calling us to awaken from the nightmare of separation. The nightmare of separation, where we have allowed ourselves to either diminish or just turn the switch off of our superpower. Because when we step into the unseen, when we step into this curiosity, we begin to reboot the system. We all know in this day and age of computers, we know about rebooting the system. Sometimes you get so messed up, you say, look, I done tried everything. I hit that button and let me just restart. Let's reboot. And that's what this tapping into the unseen power of the divine does for us. It gives us the opportunity to reboot, to wake up to our true self. And that's done through curiosity. That's done through wonder. That's done through walking by faith and not by sight. And so as we get on this journey of awakening to bring us back to our new understanding, I think this verse really, or this statement really by Brene Brown is key. Faith is a place of mystery where we find the courage to believe in what we cannot see and the strength to let go of our fear of uncertainty. Now just think about that for a minute. Letting go the fear of uncertainty. Nobody today thought about what happens if gravity turns off. There's uncertainty that we don't know. It might turn off, right? We've heard these stories now with all the changes going on the planet about the magnetic poles have switched several times. It's one of those things that moves so slowly you don't know it until it happens. But when we can move beyond this fear of uncertainty, of separation, God is never separate from us. I'm going to say that again because there's a little nuance there. God is never separate from us. If there's a state of separateness, it's us. We're separated from God because we're not tapping into the mystery. We're not being curious enough. We're not opening our heart enough to allow the light of the unseen, the slow, the fast things, the microscopic things to enliven us, to awaken us, to create a place in our hearts and minds and our very souls that says yes. That says yes. So now, obviously, the question becomes, we talked about all this unseen and tapping in, and how do we do it? That's the question. How do we do it? What do we need to do to activate this creative superpower? Well, I'm going to give you 3 things. And the first thing that we want to talk about is humility is the first step. Humility is the first step. And in Matthew 18:3, we get the blueprint for what we need to do. And verily I say unto you, unless you become as little children, ye shall never enter into the kingdom of heaven. Now just think about when you were a child, or if you have a child, or if you saw a child. Whatever you tell them not to do, they're going to do it because they're curious. And when they start, they're going to look under, they're going to look over. If it's something that's in the container, they're going to tear it up to see why it works. They're curious. They're not taking it for face value. They're not taking it for granted. They are curious enough to ask the questions. They're humble enough to make mistakes. And so, we all learned this when we were very young. The 5 questions: what, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. That's how we are supposed to engage life. Who is this? Why is this? What is this? Where is this? And sometimes that where is unseen. But when we can get those other questions and tap into that superpower, how many of you remember or have a child or a grandchild, and you can give them the simplest toy? Sometimes it's just a cardboard box, and they will spend hours drawing on the box and flipping the box and squeezing the box. And you're sitting there saying, they ain't tired of that box yet. The boy been playing with that box for 2 hours. But 2 hours pass, and the smile on his face or the inquisitive look is still there. How are we as adults? Are we doing that? Are we engaging life with that kind of curiosity? Are we flipping the box, whether it's the work box or the relationship box or whatever box? Are we as attentive to that box with a curiosity as you were as a child? That's a proverbial question. And so when we begin to look under things and over things and through things and around things to spark that spirit within, because remember, God is not separate from us. We're separate from God if we're feeling that. And so how do we bring that? Come back to childlike wonder. Come back to childlike inquisitiveness. And then we step into that superpower. Now, the next thing that we really need to step into, and this one is again from Matthew. It says this: ask, and it will be given to you. Knock, and the door will be open. Seek, and ye shall find. For everyone who asks receives. The one who seeks finds. And the one who knocks, the door will be open. Are you searching for knowledge, or are you fearful of knowledge? Knowledge is a strength that knocks fear out the ballpark. Because all knowledge, regardless to what anybody has ever told you, regardless to whatever you thought, all knowledge is sacred knowledge. All knowledge. Because we live in a sacred place. This is a sacred universe. This is a sacred planet. This is a sacred room. So everything that's going on here is sacred, because we know from the very beginning, it says, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth and put the spirit in everything. And after that, the magic word came out, and it was good. Right? So when do we tap back into that? And it's like, again, see this whole childlike thing. How many of you ever played the game? We played it in the South. I'm sure they played it there where Mama May I, or Hot and Cold, or Hide and Go Seek, right? All those games ask you to step into something very unseen. And as you get hot or cold, something happens. And the same with us. When we get close to the spirit, we can feel that warmth in the body. I know y'all have felt it. You're thinking about something, you're reading something, you're curious, and then all of the jigsaw puzzle pieces just connect, and you get this feeling of an invisible presence, unseen spirit of God that says, yes, that's it. Knowledge is powerful, more powerful than fear. So we need to see, it says, seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. You don't ever want to stop seeking knowledge, because we live in a universe that's always changing. And it's changing because the Spirit of God is always moving. And so when we can humble ourselves and when we can look at knowledge as a power and be prepared for it, that's the other thing. We have to be prepared to accept this knowledge. I mean, might have to do a little homework. God forbid. Might have to stay up a little late one night. But it's worth it. It's worth it. I guarantee you it's worth it. And so the next thing that we have to do, we have to step into this power. We have to step into this power. And Thoreau says this: if one advances confidently in the direction of their dreams and endeavors to live the life which has been imagined, they will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. Are you moving confidently, unseen, into the direction of your dreams? Or are you hesitant? Are you you're about to lose your balance because you got your foot up, but you're scared to put it down? We got that thing. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop, but you won't put it down. Because I don't know what might happen if I start a new relationship. I don't know what might happen if I seek a new job. I don't know what, you don't need to know. We move by faith, not by sight. I don't need to know. What I need to know is that there's a power in the universe greater than any of us, and we can use it. It's an invisible power. It's a loving power. It's an intelligent power, and we see it every day. When we were living in caves, electricity was here. When they were driving horse and buggy, the electric engine concept was already here. It took someone who was curious enough, had faith enough, and understood the power of the living God enough to make it happen. So what are you making happen in your life? What are you prepared for? What are you acting as a child? What are you seeking knowledge for to be the arms and legs of the divine? Because that's why we're here. We are the arms, the extension of the divine. And so when we can do that, we can say this. If we can say this, we have to act as if everything depended on us, but we have to pray as if everything depended on God. Act as if everything depends on you, but pray as if everything depends on God. And when those two things meet, that unseen connection meets, we can celebrate. We can celebrate life. We can celebrate defeats. We can celebrate death. We can celebrate everything because we know there's an eternal God. There's an eternal spirit that's moving every day for the better of the whole. There is no separation except if we separate ourselves from it. And so as we close and we think about the summary of all of this, here's what I will present. Get to know yourself, the real self. That's a mystery for most of us. It's an unseen thing. And if we step into the curiosity of that, who am I? What am I? Why am I? Get to know who I am, why God has sent me here, what my specific purpose is. Now we got some stuff to work with. But if I'm working with what somebody else told me I was, or looking at somebody else liking what they did and trying to make myself like that because I thought that was good, that will be a failure. I can tell you that right now. I've tried it at least, again, twice. I did it at least twice, and it did not work. So get to know your real self. And here's the other part. Part of getting to know your real self is we have to change our habits. We got to change some of our habits. We got to change some of our routines because some of them have been grafted onto us. I saw so-and-so do it. He looked like he was successful. She looked like she was happy. Man, that made me miserable. Now I got a routine of it because I thought it was, something good, something that's going to lead me to success, and it didn't. So we have to step back from that. Change your routines if they're not working. If they're not creating a sense of curiosity, if they're not creating a sense of connection, you might want to change it. You don't have to get rid of all of it. Maybe you just need to tweak it a little bit, but it has to be examined. And this happens when you begin to know yourself. And the last thing is, what are the things you need to just let go? To just let go. You got some kind of emotional attachment or whatever, but they don't work. Just let them go. And the best way to do that is stay in the present moment. Just because I have a hammer, that ain't going to work on a screw. I need a screwdriver. And that's how it is with God. No matter what your tool is. See, the thing about God, he can morph. He can be any kind of tool. So that's what we want. And so, as always, there's a call to action. There's something that we do every week to embody this teaching, this understanding, this idea. So when we look at the call to action for this week, the first thing is spend some time in meditation. Remain open, seek, and ye shall find. What should we meditate on? Doesn't matter. Step into the silence. Be open to the unseen curiosity of the world, and God will speak to you. Maybe in a song, maybe in a poetry, maybe in a TV program, maybe in an argument. Because God speaks through all things. And then the second thing is ask yourself, what does it mean to know yourself is to know God? What does that statement mean to you? Everybody has used it. To know yourself is to know God. Now you talk about a mystery or some unseen stuff right there. But try it on for size. See what happens. Because when we do, we begin to see the world differently. And we can embrace our superpower. And so as we look at this affirmation for this week, that allows us to anchor these ideas. I seek first the kingdom of heaven, knowing that all things shall be given unto me. I seek first the kingdom of heaven, knowing that all things will be given unto me. And when we can do that and do these practices and have this kind of consciousness, we can save the world, really. We really can. So let us take that on, and as we do, let's just step into prayer so that we can anchor this even further in our hearts and minds. And so, everybody, let's take a deep breath. I gave a lot out there, and I need to take a breath. Because we've awakened this unseen spirit, a divine intelligence, an all-encompassing power, a love that is so strong that each and every one of us right now, if we just take a moment in silence, you'll feel the vibration in your body. That's the power of God. That's the power of love. That's the power of knowledge. That is the power of the unseen. And so we give honor, respect to that power, knowing that it is in each and every one of us and that we awaken to this idea every day. And so I know right here, right now, that each and every one of us here and those that are on the airways and those who may see this later are awakening to an idea of what is my superpower? How do I step into a curiosity moment, into the mystery of the unseen, to awaken the God-given talent, my true self, this day, not tomorrow, not yesterday, but today, and stay in that moment? And so I give thanks for this idea, for this understanding of who and what we are and what we're capable of doing and how we do it, that it allows us to be more than we ever thought we could be. And so It is in that thanksgiving, it is in that understanding that I release this word into a law that has already begun to activate, that already is making things happen differently in our lives. And so we just let go and we know that it is so, and so it is. Amen.